So at any rate, we've got, and on your respective screens, I want to confirm, are you showing a small red dot that we are recording? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's great, because we've had so much difficulty with recordings this semester. I do want to welcome today an alumna of this course. Crystal Flores is joining us today, and she is an alum of this particular course. And I don't, let's see, of the 322, and I'm not sure, did you do 329 also with me, the perspectives course? Okay. I couldn't recall whether you'd done it with me or another person. In the fall, I'm doing 329. So she survived. And so, and is a brilliant alum, and is now in graduate school and is visiting us for the day. And so we're very pleased to have her. We may need to press her in service as an actor today, because we don't have very many folks. And I realize with the change in times, and I really appreciate your flexibility, it seems as though the highest attendance we've had so far is by doing this on Mondays at noon. That may be a possibility next week, and as we get closer to the start of the week, I'll look in. I do want to say to you that next week we also have the option of course, that will be our last week together, but we also will have, well, I'll just have to see what options we have in terms of time, but I'm also hoping to schedule some workshop times as well for those working on final projects or who want to drop by just to visit, or you might want to check with me about sources. All of that is good, so I will be delighted. Well, this book here is from Davis Obell's book, A More Perfect Heaven, her biography of Copernicus. And I mentioned at the very beginning of the course that Davis Obell is one of those historians of science who is able to very much work with primary sources, and her materials and her historical novels are solidly built on archival materials. She is trained as an historian of science, and hence and she has several other books. Her most famous, the one that really put her on the literary map, and especially, and those of you working with gender and science as semester projects will be interested in this. Her first book, Galileo's Daughter, and it's the story of Galileo's daughter, Virginia, who was known as Sister Maria Celeste. She was in the convent near where her father was under house arrest in the last part of his life. It was she who corresponded with him, and they lived close enough that he could send his drafts to her. She would proof them, check over the math and so on to make sure all the calculations were correct. And then with that, she would send back laundry to Galileo and send him minestrone soup. So there's a little bit of mathematical trivia. That was his favorite food, minestrone. And so she would send it to him. And then that was delightful. So they had a very interesting relationship, but I'm so glad to see Davis Obell writing that in such an engaging manner. So the story of Galileo's daughter, this is another example of this. And this is a little told intellectual byway, but yet it is so important to the start of the history of science. And then most recently, many of you have already discussed in your discussion boards with respect to Leonardo and the scientific method. Again, realizing that with the readings that you've been doing with Capra and with Gribben, although Gribben is anachronistic at points, and that's the whole reason we're critically examining him, yet we find that with the grand narrative that is crafted in terms of the history of science, and then this week we have another foil to that, which is the Needham hypothesis about science and civilization in the East. When we study these things properly on their own terms, we find that, again, Copernicus is very much situated in a medieval context. And Newton, in many ways, is structured in that context. It's not without reason that one of his leading biographers is called Newton, the last sorcerer, because he's very much one of the last of the older worldview. Because again, and this is something that I emphasize in our classroom-based course, but I want to emphasize it again here, and I think many of you have already inferred this from comments I've made so far. But Copernicus, whom we're studying today, Copernicus did not have as his object novelty. He did not say, I'm going to set ideas on their heads. Copernicus is a mathematician and an astronomer, and he says, well, what if we use this mathematical convention of transposing the position of the Earth and the sun? And so that's one. And then we have detractors whom we're going to meet, not least of whom is Regiomontanus, and I'll give you a little background on him. Johannes Müller, also known as Regiomontanus. I'm sorry. That's completely wrong. Rheticus. I keep conflating Regiomontanus and Rheticus, but they're cut from the same cloth. And so again, my apologies to you. Rheticus studied, it was a mathematician at Wittenberg, for those of you who know ecclesiastical history, for what is Wittenberg famous? Well, Martin Luther. Wittenberg is, Rheticus is on the faculty with Luther. He's a junior faculty member. He's in the math department at Wittenberg. He goes up there to Copernicus. And at this point, 1542, 1543, we have a very, very, very early burgeoning Protestant movement. And so we see, well, who are all the Copernicans? Are there any followers of Luther who are Copernicans? No, absolutely not. Luther rejected it out of hand. Wittenberg said, that's foolish. But Wittenberg respected good math, and they said Copernicus' math is good. Prior to 1600, all of the Copernicans fairly much were Catholic, were remaining. And the interesting thing about Wittenberg is there were Catholics on the faculty, because the Reform, everything was all permeable. There really wasn't a boundary. Well, Catholic and that term really, Protestant, is anachronistic. It saw itself as just an early Reform movement. Okay, so all of this, and Copernicus is not an epoch-marking revolutionary at this stage. That's not on his agenda. And Rheticus, we will read about him a little bit more later. We'll find that he plays a role, a seminal role in the publication of the De Revolutionibus. So with that in mind, I would like to just read some selected components here. We have got various segments here of the play. Let me see. This is Copernicus and the Bishop. And And then, so we have at 3 o'clock in the morning here, the scene 2 opens outside Copernicus's house. And this is at Varum and, or Torun rather, where Copernicus is now living. Of course, again, he had been educated in Italy. I always wonder historiographically if one could make the claim that his path crossed with Leonardo because they were contemporaries. Copernicus was a little bit younger than Leonardo, but very easily their paths could have crossed, as much traveling as and studying as Copernicus did in Italy. Now he's back, he's become canon of the cathedral and all of this. So we have dramatis personae, so really we could get by with, just 2 actors if we needed to, but we need Copernicus and Rheticus definitely. So if we have a volunteer for someone who would like to be Copernicus.
Can I be Rheticus?
Yes, definitely. We need a representative from Wittenberg here. Absolutely. So Jonathan is now Rheticus, and then who is Copernicus?
I'll be Copernicus.
Okay, Megan, you're appointed. Okay. And then we have some minor roles here with Anna, Franz, and then Bishop Tiedemann Giza, who is an adjoining diocese. That becomes a little bit more important later. So anyway, we'll be talking about the dedication. Shall we go ahead? We can proceed with just Rheticus and Copernicus. And so I don't know if you have access to this. I'll have this on my screen. And I don't know how legible it is, but let's see. The scene of the bishop's illness and Copernicus treating him is used to introduce and contextualize everything. And so at any rate, okay, so this is one that one can unleash one's inner thespian here, because this really can be performed dramatically. This section here between Copernicus and Rheticus. It's a rather spirited exchange, shall we say. So as soon as our characters feel as soon as our actors feel in character, we will let them begin. We have another potential actor joining us now. So we will welcome Ronald. We're just getting underway with our play today. We have Rheticus and Copernicus appointed, but we have some other floating walk-on roles that are available. So, okay, so take it away. Outside the cathedral, or outside the cathedral wall. 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, Rheticus says, "Ho, get off me."
Are you ill?
Get away from me, thief.
No, I was just trying to...
Thief!
Scuffle.
It's too bad.
No,
What did you take?
I didn't. Oh!
Give it back.
Don't.
Give it back or I'll strangle you.
I'm a doctor.
What?
I'm a doctor. I thought you were hurt. I was trying to help.
Don't move.
Who are you?
You scared me to death.
I thought you were dead. I thought...
I was just waiting there when you came along and...
You were lying on the ground.
Right there. I was sitting right over there.
Who are you?
I was waiting to see...
Ow!
Are you hurt?
My ankle. I think I...
You must have twisted it when you fell.
Give me that, will you?
I'm sorry I hurt you, doctor. I didn't know.
What are you doing here?
I'm waiting for Canon Copernicus. This is his house, isn't it?
What do you want with him?
Is he sick? Is that why you come?
No, he's not sick.
Thank God. Imagine if I'd come all this way only to find the great Canon, the starry Canon, too sick to receive me.
What did you call him?
Please forgive me, doctor. I don't normally get into fistfights. You may not believe this, but I'm a scholar by profession.
You?
A mathematician.
Really?
Professor of mathematics, in fact. My name is Rheticus. Sir Georg Joachim Rheticus. Joachim?
I think Joaquin is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, Joaquin. Yeah. Joaquin.
Yeah.
And so
Of the mathematics faculty at Wittenberg.
Wittenberg?
You've heard of it, of course.
You came here from Wittenberg?
To tell you the truth, I was actually stopping at Nuremberg when I decided to come here.
But Wittenberg is...
Nuremberg is even farther. It added another 100 miles to my journey.
But it's not safe.
Not safe to travel anywhere these days, between the bandits and the dogs. And the rain. Twice in one day, I was almost drowned fording rivers.
From Wittenberg.
The canon will know its reputation
Indeed.
as a place where the study of mathematics has always flourished.
Here, take this back.
Oh, keep it, please. Use it as long as you like.
This is Poland, Professor. Catholic Poland.
I'm sure Canon Copernicus will welcome me as a natural philosopher.
He will do no such thing. He cannot.
We'll see what he... Whoa there, doctor. Are you sure you can walk?
I don't have far to go.
Here? But you mean you're...
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Oh my God. Oh, please forgive me.
Now, don't.
All the times I pictured our meeting, and to think, dear Lord, how I've botched things.
It's all right. I'm fine, but you'd better move on. This is no place for you.
If only you knew how I...
Get up.
The whole way here, I rehearsed over and over what I would say when I met you.
Say it then, on your feet.
Canon Copernicus, is that the right way to address you, sir? Or should I call you father? Did you say you were a doctor?
Doesn't matter. Just say your piece.
Begging your pardon, Canon Sir. Doctor, I have letters here from... Letters of introduction from...
Don't bother with that.
Here they are, sir. From Schoner in Nuremberg, and another one from Hartmann, and also Peter Appian, and...
Did you say from Schoner?
Yes, sir. Here, see for yourself. He was gracious enough to let me stay several weeks with him in his home. This one is from Camerarius in Tübingen. He tried to convince me not to look for you. He said you must be dead by now. Excuse me, sir. I meant no offense. It's just that no one has heard from you in so long. They're all waiting. They wonder why you've kept silent all this time.
I have nothing to say.
You are too modest, sir. What you've done, why, you have made the greatest leap in astronomy since Ptolemy introduced the equant, brandishing the letters. Everyone speaks of you, the Polish canon, they call you, who spins the earth and makes the sun and stars stand still. They say you've been working at your thesis for more years than I've lived.
I'm finished with all that now.
You're finished? You're ready to release the details?
There's nothing here for you, Professor. You should go back to Wittenberg. I'm sure your students miss you.
With all due respect, sir, classes are suspended for the summer holiday. And besides, I have been on special leave the past 2 semesters on a personal mission, meeting with the most learned mathematicians of our time. I believe that you, sir, are the culmination of my quest, the very key to the perfection of the heavenly spheres.
It's you again.
Oh, shoot. Beat. Sir, I seek to restore the queen of mathematics, that is, astronomy, to her palace, as she deserves, and to redraw the boundaries of her kingdom.
I can't help you.
Only you can help me.
Good night, Professor.
And I can help you too. Let me tell you my plan.
I wish you a safe journey.
Hear me out.
Hush! I'm telling you for your own safety to leave this place. Rheticus?
In the middle of the night, and after I've traveled weeks just to find you.
Okay, very good. So that ends that scene. We've established their meeting. Remember the names. We'll come back to those later. But all of those are important. I just want to say one quick thing. There at Nuremberg, and there's a reason why he passes through Nuremberg, because there is a major scientific publisher at Nuremberg. And so his object is he's beginning to lay the foundation, and ultimately, well, I won't tell you how this story ends because the suspense is going to build, but let's just say that something winds up being purloined by the end of this scuffle. So anyway, so we're inside the Copernicus's house, and so we'll do that. I'm going to ellipse some sections, but we'll go ahead and read most of the next section because this covers a lot of the intellectual content that I wanted to emphasize. So here we are inside the house, and then of course it's nearly dawn now, and then Rheticus follows Copernicus into the house, and so here we go.
Okay, you can spread out your bedding in there.
I'm not the least bit tired. I wonder whether we could just take a few moments to...
In the pantry, you'll find some bread. You may take what you need for your...
Oh, I almost forgot. In all the confusion, sir, I never gave you the gifts I brought.
I can't accept gifts.
You must. This is Ptolemy.
Thank you, but no. I have studied Ptolemy, of course. Every astronomer has studied.
You would have read a Latin translation from the Arabic or Hebrew. This is the original Greek text.
Oh.
Only recently recovered and now published for the first time.
Let me just have a look at that.
And this is Euclid's geometry, also in Greek. And here, Regiomontanus on triangles. I love the part at the beginning where he says, no one can bypass the science of triangles and reach a satisfying knowledge of the stars.
These are magnificent volumes.
I chose the ones I knew you would like, Canon Sir.
I couldn't. You keep them for your own library.
I've already inscribed them to you.
To N. Copernicus, my teacher. Your teacher?
I was hoping...
I have no students.
I know that, sir.
No followers of any kind.
That is why I've come.
I'm sorry, Professor.
To be your disciple. Whatever problems have interfered, kept you from bringing your work to completion, I want to help you solve them. I showed you my letters. Even Melanchthon says Melanchthon says I have exceptional aptitude.
Philip Melanchthon?
The teacher of Germany, yes.
Luther's own chosen successor? His right hand?
He said I was born to study mathematics.
Tell me, Professor, are you on intimate terms with Luther too?
Oh, now I see but I swear to you, sir, I do not share the Reverend Luther's opinion of your ideas. No, indeed.
Martin Luther has an opinion about my...
It's only his opinion, whereas I feel astronomy requires precisely the kind of bold new approach that you take.
What does he say about it?
Oh, things come up at faculty meetings, lunches, at table. You know how it is.
No.
Someone gave him the gist of it and...
And?
Well...
What did he say?
He said only a fool would turn the whole of astronomy upside down merely for the sake of novelty.
I suppose fool is a mild insult coming from him.
And of course, he knows nothing of mathematics. He only rejected your theory because it contradicts the Bible. He quoted Joshua 10:12. You know the part where Joshua says, "Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon."
Yes, I know it all too well.
And thou, moon, in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still. Exactly, sir. The sun stood still. And that's his point, because if the sun were already standing still, as you claim, then why would Joshua have commanded it to do so?
Why do you think?
I say mathematics is for mathematicians. Scripture doesn't enter into it.
Is that what you told him?
Then we have the scene with Anna, which is, a roll up for grabs, but let me see.
I can be Anna.
Who was volunteering?
Me, Crystal.
Oh, sure. Okay, very good. All right, good. And we'll get this because this adds context. Okay, there we go. Anna comes into the room in robe, shawl, and nightcap, carrying a candle. Okay.
Is everything all right?
Anna, what are you doing up at this hour?
Have you been hurt, Miko?
She wouldn't let me in when I arrived.
It's nothing.
What happened?
I sprained it, that's all.
I thought she was going to throw water on me.
He came to the door after you left.
I tried to tell her I was only...
I was afraid to let him in.
You did the right thing.
What does he want?
He'll be leaving in just a few...
What about the bishop?
Oh!
Not...
No, he's resting. Go back to bed, dear. I'm sorry we woke you.
I've been waiting up worrying the whole night, Miko.
Everything's all right now.
I don't like the look of him.
I'll take care of this. Don't worry. I hate to be inhospitable, Professor. I wish...
There's something else I brought you, sir.
No, please. No more gifts.
These are from Schoner, some recent observations he collected of Mercury. He insisted that I give them to you.
Okay. And Mercury plays a role in what we've read our first and second weeks together. Okay, I'm going to roll up to this. Here we go.
He didn't make the observations himself. He said he got them from someone else, but he remembered that you always wanted... He said you'd be pleased. He was sure you would. You haven't really given it up, have you, sir? You must still be working on it. Am I right, sir? I said, you haven't quit, have you? It's just taking time. Isn't that right? That's why I thought I could...
No, I'm sorry. Even if I wanted to, my hands are tied. The bishop, you see, I'm afraid there's no nice way to say this, Professor. The bishop has banished Lutherans from the diocese?
From this diocese, uh-huh.
What has that got to do with me?
You mean you're not Lutheran?
I'm not looking to settle down here. I just want to talk to you about your work.
Even that would not be... No.
I'm a mathematician, not a theologian. Couldn't you explain that to him? Perhaps he would grant us what do you call it, an indulgence?
A dispensation. But no, there's no chance of that.
Oh, please try. You can promise him that our discussions will have nothing to do with faith. We'll limit ourselves strictly to arithmetic and geometry, the wings of the human mind. On such wings as those, we can transcend our religious differences, transcend all religious differences. Didn't Abraham teach astronomy to the Hebrews? And Moses, another Jew, and heaven knows all those Islamic astronomers praying to their Allah 5 times a day and watching the stars all night. Even going back to the Egyptians, the Greeks. Prometheus and the theft of divine fire, the very crime for which he suffered an eagle to devour his liver. What does that mean if not that Prometheus delivered the light of astronomy to mortals?
How young you are, Professor.
You're not afraid to talk to him, are you?
I am the bishop's personal physician.
Well then.
I was summoned to his side tonight after he was poisoned by a Lutheran spy.
No.
No, it was nothing like that. But knowing the intimate details of his digestion gives me no leverage to sway his opinion on any subject.
Please try. I implore you. If you do, I swear I will.
Professor, you must leave off this genuflecting and swearing. Remember, you are not a Catholic, and I am not a priest.
You're not?
Only minor orders, never ordained. But I do administer the cathedral's business affairs. I am an officer of the church. I cannot harbor a heretic.
I'm going to stop right there for just a second. That, by the way, is a current historiographical controversy. Davis O'Bell is one of the scholars who takes the side that says that Copernicus never was ordained, that he was a minor canon, and part of it has to do with, again, incomplete records. And he easily could have been ordained in Italy or before he came back, if indeed he were, or then maybe he wasn't. But that's just one point that she brings out. Still other historians of science and in the older historiographies of science very definitely says that Copernicus had been ordained. But anyway, I just wanted to alert you. This is another reason why Copernicus is such a good case study, for all of the history of science, regardless of what era we're studying. I mean, you might even be studying Rosalind Franklin, but you could study her using these same principles that Davis Sobel has used to study Copernicus. I'm going to go down a little bit farther because I want to discuss some of the ideas here. Let me see. Because there are, here's a scene with Bishop Tiedemann Giza. This is important. Giza is saying, look, that's a reform movement. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt you to have somebody from Wittenberg up here, etc. Let me see here, just one second. So there's that if we have the time, that is an interesting exchange, and all of the details of that are very important. But let's take a look here. If one goes, I don't know if any of you has visited Torun in Poland, but if you visit there to this day, and when we meet in person in the course, and I should send the link for this, just a few years ago when they found Copernicus's remains and were able to identify them through DNA forensics, they had a formal funeral for him. And it was, and many scientists from all over the world attended. I wish I had known about it. I just found out about it post facto. I would have loved to have gone, but it was an elaborate funeral for Copernicus, and they had the bones put in a little ossuary, and they had, anyway, it was a gala affair. But anyway, you can go to the cathedral there, and to this day you can go and visit his house, then his observatory, and then parts of his library are there identified, and then other sections of his library are elsewhere. So we have a fairly good inventory of what he was reading, where it was, and so on. But anyway, we're now up in that tower, which you can still visit that to this day. He has this large armillary in there. So anyway, we begin and we hear voices off scene, off stage.
Where are you taking me, sir?
Only a little farther now.
But where?
Nearly there. Ah! Here we are. You can stay here.
Here?
This is it.
What is this place?
You'll be safe here.
Is it your observatory?
This? No.
Not a prison cell, is it?
Oh no, it's a retreat, a safe house. We all have rooms like this. When there's danger from outside, we come up here and we stay here until it's safe to leave.
You really expect me to stay here?
No one will think to look here now, in peacetime.
For how long?
Just till tonight.
The whole day?
After sunset, you can go. As soon as it's dark, I'll come fetch you.
You're not staying with me?
No.
But now we have all day.
I can't stay with you. I have to...
Oh, please, stay and seize this day with me. Look how God has provided a space of time for us after all. This is our chance to talk, one mathematician to another. What is that?
That?
What is it?
Just something I made
You built it?
a long time ago.
But what is it? Some kind of observing instrument?
No, it's more of a model, really.
Like an armillary sphere?
You might say.
Only larger.
Yes.
Much larger.
I don't use it anymore.
Why so big?
Well, the person inside it needs room to...
There's someone inside it?
Not now.
No, but a person could.
Yeah, the person has to sit inside it to get the effect.
And what effect would that be inside?
The sense of the consequences, really, of my theory.
So you sat in there while you were figuring out how to...
No, I stood out here to operate it.
Someone else was inside?
Yes.
So you did have a student before me.
No.
Then why?
No, I made this for a friend, someone who couldn't grasp the mathematical concepts, who needed a way to visualize the spheres.
You certainly went to a lot of trouble.
I suppose I did.
For your friend.
Yes. Well then, you wait here and...
Could I try it?
No, I don't think so.
I'd really like to see what it does.
No one's used it in years. I doubt it still works.
Let's try it and see.
There's no need. You of all people can follow the math.
I was hoping to read your work, sir. I didn't know I could write in it.
Don't touch that.
How do you get in?
Not there. No, not like that.
Show me then, please.
Let go of that. It's over here. You can climb through here.
This is a lot smaller than it looks. There's hardly room to... Your friend must have been half my size.
Maybe you shouldn't.
All right, I'm in. Oh my God, what happened?
It'll take a moment to...
It's pitch black in here. I can't see my hand in front of my face.
I'm lighting it now. Just another moment.
Stuffy too, I can hardly breathe.
There.
What the...
You see anything?
Oh my God.
You see?
Oh dear God, it's this. There are stars everywhere, all around. How did you do that?
Now I turn you.
What?
I said I'll turn you around now.
I can't hear you.
Turn. I have to.
Oh, turn. Is that what you said?
It's stuck. Wait.
Did I do something?
No. There it goes.
And so you're sitting there being rotated.
Good God, what's happening? Oh, this is unbelievable.
You see what it does?
Oh, sir, you have reproduced the night. The effect is, it's so lovely. So, oh, look, the zodiac constellations.
The thing to look for.
There's the ram, the bull. Whoa, what was that? Oh.
Sorry.
Merciful heavens.
Something slipped. I'm trying to...
Woo!
I'm sorry. I told you the machine was...
Oh, please, continue.
I'm afraid I can't keep this up much longer. I'm not as strong as I used to be. You better come out now.
Oh my, that was...
Steady there.
I'm still seeing stars.
Let your eyes adjust to the light.
Ooh.
Well,
Thank you, sir.
did you find it convincing?
Convincing?
Did you?
Before we proceed to the end of the convincing, this machine, which when you look at it, I'm very much wondering, I need to look into the history of it because it is a great personal concern to me, but that the NASA triple axis trainer for astronautics is very much, sounds like it's a machine built on these, because this has triple motion, as we're going to see in just a minute. So anyway, so now Rheticus is still wobbling around out on the floor, and now they continue being convinced. Did you?
Convincing of what, sir?
Of the motion.
Oh, most definitely.
Good. Well then.
All the stars moved. I could see them spinning round and round.
No, the stars didn't.
It was great.
That was you going around, not the stars.
No, I saw the stars turned around me.
You turned in that little seat. That's the only part that moves.
But I didn't feel it move.
You're not supposed to.
No?
No, that's just it. You think the stars are turning, but really it's you turning. Well, it's really me turning you. And once you realize that it's you going around, then you make the shift in perception. You see?
I'm not sure I do, no.
The machine gives you a physical appreciation for what the turning of the Earth, you know how the Earth, by its rotation, makes the stars appear to spin around it. And the planets, too. I tried to build in the planetary effects, the stations and retrogrades, but I had trouble aligning them.
Do you mean to say...
Those parts must still be around here somewhere.
Oh, no.
What?
You mean you really do mean to turn the Earth?
You knew that.
But really turn it?
What did you think?
I didn't think you meant to turn it physically.
How else would you turn it, if not physically?
It would turn theoretically, in a hypothetical way, on paper, in order to theoretically, mathematically, but not.
No, the motion is real. Of course it is.
Oh my God.
I thought you understood my work.
I
Shouldn't I explain it to you?
I
What did he tell you?
don't think he sees it quite the way you do, sir.
How can that?
He didn't mention anything about a real motion.
Are you sure?
All he said was, no, he didn't say anything about.
You mean he doesn't understand it either?
I think he must not have interpreted it literally. Why would he?
Why?
Why would he leap to that conclusion?
Oh dear God.
Honestly, sir, I don't think anyone realizes exactly what it is you have in mind.
What can they think I've been doing all these years?
Even just to use the idea as the basis for new calculations would, but to claim the motion as reality?
Yes.
I am dumbstruck. Look, you and we're just standing here. The earth, it doesn't move.
Yes, it does.
You really believe that the earth is turning?
It's not a question of belief, Professor. I know it turns.
What do you mean you know?
I mean, the evidence has convinced me.
What evidence?
Goodness, the time.
You mean the earth leaves some kind of wake behind it, like a boat?
I'm sorry, I must leave you now.
No, wait a minute.
You must excuse me. I'll come back tonight.
Wait.
They're expecting me in the...
Just because I raise a few questions, you walk away?
Don't you hear the bells? That's the call to Mass. If I'm not in the cathedral, then...
Wait.
All right. So now he has the machine. Now you can hear these images, and he speaks about a misperception. This is Davis Sobel's interpretation of the correspondence and the records that we see in Rheticus's work, and then before him, the work of Regiomontanus with his own commentariolus, which was the commentary on Ptolemy, not to be confused with Copernicus's own commentariolus that he had written some 39 years before this interchange takes place with Rheticus. I love this play. It becomes more and more intricate, and if you can really, but we really don't have time to go into all of it. We do find that Rheticus becomes frustrated and glares at the machine, at the trainer. He was not too happy. But anyway, then we have this next scene here. There's quite a bit of quite an interchange here. There's also a controversy about Anna, whom you see represented here. Was Anna who was his housekeeper, was she a paramour? We're not sure. That's another contested historiographical point, but she may very well play a role, whether she was or not. She may very well play a strong role in these ideas and so on, and certainly the fostering of the communication between Copernicus and all these other folks here. Anyway, we have the Nuremberg show, and this next section, I wish we had time to have this interchange between Copernicus and Tiedemann Giese, because Giese is impressed with because he knows of the mathematics coming out of Nuremberg, and in many ways Sobel structures this as a way of Giese gently chiding Copernicus for trying to push Rheticus away, at least at first. And then, we have, he have the notice here when Copernicus tells Giese, you and I never saw Mercury at an angle of western elongation like that, nowhere even close to those values. So Rheticus has some data there. Now, the tables available, and I realize this is not a course in Copernicus or in the scientific revolution, but if time did permit, we could go into and ring the changes on the whole idea of the Prutenic tables, which were the current data tables available. But anyway, so that's another story for another day. We have Franz coming in. We have we have Anna there, Rheticus, and so on. And then the idea here again, then the bishop, Copernicus's uncle, is having an exchange with Giza, and Giza, of course, it would be a more superior ecclesiastic. And Giza is saying, essentially, get over your suspicions, let this man alone. We've got mathematics and astronomy we can learn from him. Notice that none of the clerics here reject Copernicus because of the again, here we have these Catholic proto-heliocentrists rejecting a geocentrist coming. So this is quite the opposite of the story that's often woven in our modern historiographies. And we had shades of that very early on when we had that discussion about inventing the flat earth. That it was Catholics versus Copernicus. No, it wasn't quite that way at all. So anyway, good point. But Giza is very influential here and knows the importance of the work that's being done down there. We've got Anna and Broth and Rheticus here, who has become ill with just a minor illness. Then they have a discussion and a vigorous interchange about Luther. Then we get into the mathematical discussions, and this really, and then Copernicus discusses his calculations of the diurnal motion of the earth and so on. And then here he makes the argument, Rheticus says, but if the earth turns as fast as you say it does, there'd be a terrific wind howling across the face of the earth. And Copernicus says, no, there's no wind because the earth has its own atmosphere, etc. So anyway, the list goes on and on. I really wish we had time to do all of this, as I've said already repeatedly. But let me finish the story, and I encourage you to read this. And if you want to put on a production of this, I've always hoped that some theater major would enroll in the course and do this as a final project. One year I did have some students who filmed Copernicus and Giza, but they wrote their own script. They didn't use Davis Sobel's. I would love to see this filmed. I think it would be a marvelous motion picture. But it does have all that intrigue, that whole business of Copernicus, the bishop thinking that he was being poisoned by Lutherans, which of course the term Lutheran wasn't even used at that time, but he thought that he was being poisoned by some detractors. But the beauty of all this is that what it eventuates in Rheticus leaving, and he takes Copernicus's manuscript to the De Rev with him, not to steal it, but to take it to Nuremberg to the scientific publisher there and have it published. But it's not before before he gets his hands on it and writes a little preface. Now, Copernicus had already written a dedication to Pope Sixtus, but he gets there, and before he turns it over to the publisher, he writes an extended preface. We can read it to this day, essentially saying the mathematics contained herein is excellent. This is an advance in knowledge. These tables are excellent, and we're going to advance the cause of astronomy. We're going to be able to more accurately predict eclipses, motions of the Earth, the transit of Venus, the retrogression of Mars. All of this is going to be explained with much more precision because we have more precise results. Now, in the room in which I'm, quote, sitting, unquote, here at Tycho Brahe just a few years later, then he does even more observation, which then renders these tables of Copernicus odious, but it's not really until 1600 or 1610 that those are released to the world. But anyway, in the letter he says, but ignore this heliocentrism, because everyone knows the Earth is in the center, and this math works just as well without it. Interesting thing, you did the Wittenberg cosmos, and that was the whole object of that exercise. That was meant to be a simple, fast exercise to show you, oh, yeah, we really can use Copernicus's data, but leave the Earth in the center. Because after all, we're dealing with mathematicians, and again, it's not until the 1800s with Bessel, and forever I shall rise up and call him blessed, because he gave us the Bessel functions, which are wonderful. But Bessel said, he finally observed the stellar parallax. And this was something that, Rheticus and Regiomontanus and all of the Wittenberg astronomers would have said to Copernicus, look, what are you going to do about stellar parallax? We're not seeing any. What are you going to do about, such things as that there are certain phases that can't be explained? With the retrogression of Mars, we're still going to have to use epicycles in your system. It's not really a simplified system. So these are sober mathematicians and astronomers in their own right who, with reason, raise some objections to the Copernican system. And this is borne out in practice because Owen Gingerich a few years ago did a census of all surviving copies he could find of the first and second editions of the De Rev. He went throughout the world finding where they are, finding out who was reading it and when, another historiographical tool that we can use, regardless of whom we're studying, whether it's someone still living or someone long gone. And he discovered that in many cases, including the one we have here at the university, that we find that the first half of the book, which is advancing the Copernican theory that you saw in our play we just read, was completely ignored. And those pages would be unsoiled, unused. But the tables in the back were very dog-eared. And this is showing that these mathematicians are using the tables. They don't care about that front part. That has no bearing on their observations. They just want those data in the back of the book. So anyway, and again, another reason why I rue the fact that we can't get into the Harry Ransom Center this semester. But someone for a book project, I mean, that's meant to be a minor book project, and I'll just say a few words about that. You're essentially going to write just a short one-page book report on an old, an archived book or document. Normally, we go to the Harry Ransom Center. We're over there 2, 3, 4 times during the course of the semester. So you have plenty of time to do this, and then we make reservations, and teams can go over there on their own and work, which is wonderful. So when you get back on campus, be sure and take part in that, because there are many treasures over there, and I'm just very disappointed that I can't show you those treasures. But what you might find is you might decide you want to compare a couple of editions of the De Rev. Moreover, though, for that project, and I know some of you have chosen Newton and others, I know one other person is doing Boltzmann with Faraday and Maxwell, which is 19th, early 20th century. If you find a book that pertains to your final project that you want to use for this little project, that would be great, or for this little book report, that would be great, because then later you can enfold that into your final project, and that way that's less work for you. You're just you're supernumerating everything that you've done. Even as with these little short, quote, Wikipedia, unquote, articles, as I'm calling them, those can pertain to your final project, although they don't have to. So anyway, so that's the story of Copernicus. The book is then published 1543. And it has that the Wittenberg preface, the Rheticus's preface in there. I'm sorry. Yeah. Uh, and then and all is well. So um, then of course Copernicus was published. It was published really to deafening silence. Mathematicians got it. There really wasn't any controversy about the heliocentrism, really, until we get to the time of Galileo. And that whole story can be reframed much, much differently. And maybe we'll get a chance to go into that a little bit more in next, as we come into this week. Now, we do have to move ahead very quickly into the 19th and 20th centuries, but the reason that I'm have spent quite a bit of time using these older examples is that if we study these carefully, we can use the historiography of these older examples to study, whatever. I mean, I know Jeremy will be teaching a section on history of medicine, and then Diego is going to deal with the history of eugenics in Latin America in the 19th and 20th century. So a very recent example. But we can use these same historiographies to do the work they're doing. They're just using different case studies than we are. Now, a little bit of shameless self-promotion. In the fall, I'm teaching History 329U, which is Perspectives on Natural Science and Mathematics. I invite all of you to be my students in there. We're going to be studying Kuhn's other book, Structures of Scientific Revolution, and we're going to be studying the concept of the scientific case study and all of that. And so you'll hear some of this same narrative reemerge, but we're going to be studying it from a different angle. In this course, I'm just trying to give you a survey of the history of science. In that course, we're going to be a little bit more critical in that. But let me also, without laboring the point, because I want to be able to get to you and allow you to ask some questions about research and so on. But I have a book that I just love, and in person, if we're meeting every day, this is a book from which I cite frequently, but it is Alexander Coiray's. I should have an image on the screen for you. I can send these later if you're interested. Alexander Coiray's Metaphysics and Measurement. Coiray is a personal hero of mine. He also wrote a thick volume on early modern science. He's also a scholar of Jakob Böhme, again, an early historian of science of now 2-3 generations ago. But in his book, The Metaphysics of Measurement, he makes some statements about Aristotle. Now, some have accused Coiray of being a little bit anachronistic, but I have to tell you, he was also a colleague of the very early historians of science. So he was a good friend of René Taunton, J.D. Bernal, and so many of these other early historians of science as the discipline began to unfold in the early part of the 20th century. But Coiray himself was Russian, an emigre and escapee from the Bolshevik Revolution, and taught in Paris a great deal, but really all across Europe, and then also exerted some influence in North America. Most of his works, except the Böhme book, have been translated into English. And his book on the scientific revolution, I use in the scientific revolution course, but time does not permit to use that here. But he made a statement about, to contextualize everything here, that I'm just going to reify a comment that I made in some of the discussions last week. Aristotelian physics is based on sense perception. Now notice we see some intimations of this in the Copernicus play, and is therefore decidedly non-mathematical. Now that's a debatable point, but I'm going to go ahead and read the rest of this. It refuses to substitute mathematical abstractions for the colorful, qualitatively determined facts of common experience. So the four elements, elemental theory, qualities such as wetness, dryness and so on that we had in the elements lab. This corroborates this. So for the colorful, qualitatively determined facts of common experience, and it denies the very possibility of a mathematical physics on the ground of, number one, the nonconformity of mathematical concepts to the data of sense experience, and number two, the inability of mathematics to explain quality and to deduce movement. There is no quality and no motion in the timeless realm of figure and number. And then as for motion, kinesis or kinesis, or rather local motion, Aristotelian physics considers it a kind of process of change in contradistinction with rest, which being the goal and end of motion is to be remembered as a state. And this goes on and on. But he makes the statement here about the transition from the qualitative to the quantitative. And I mentioned that in one of the forums about Roy Porter's book, Trust in Numbers. And Porter really emphasizes the transition and the embrace of the describing the physical mathematically. And certainly this paves the way for what Newton has done. Now there are counterpoints that could be raised to what Coy-Ray has said. For example, I think immediately of 21st century physics. And if any of you has done a course in wave mechanics or quantum mechanics or that type of thing, you will know that or even in atomic physics, you will know that subatomic particles are described using qualitative terms such as topness, bottomness, strangeness, flavor, charm, and so on. All of these qualitative terms. And some of them can only be quantified with a plus or a minus, pointing to, again, quantum states. But nevertheless, we've come back to that now full circle. And for him, then, the rest of the story for Coy-Ray is really told through Galileo, and Galileo provides the necessary conceptual link between the ancient and in entering into the early modern and modern. And we'll have an example of that in one of the labs coming up right away, and I need to check those labs too to make sure that material is there that you're going to need. But Galileo, of course, is the one who develops the idea of an inertial reference frame. Really, Copernicus has a reference frame in this story with his world machine, his trainer, if you will. But in this case, Galileo blatantly describes inertial reference frames. And then that paves the way, of course, for Newtonian mechanics and kinematics, astrodynamics. And then we rush headlong into the work of Thomson and Lorentz and Millikan, who then paved the way for the work of Einstein in special relativity. And Einstein reinvokes the Galilean concept of special or of inertial reference frames, and then frames it in terms of special relativity in 1905, his first great paper that was developed out of his studies in Brownian motion and relativistic effects in Brownian motion. And then in his 1912 major paper on general relativity. And even Einstein himself, and I'll end my comments at this point by concluding with Einstein and say that with Einstein, he regarded his work as merely a footnote to Newton and these others, because he knew very well, inertial reference frames in Galileo. He knew very well this type of discussion and the shift of science and from the quantitative or to the qualitative to the quantitative, and these shifts that you see in Aristotle. And Aristotle really, well, one could argue that endlessly, and if this were an ancient science course, we could argue Aristotle ad infinitum, but that's a really interesting case study. But Einstein saw his work as, again, just a footnote to Newton. And in fact, idolized Newton so much that a portrait of Newton hung over the head of his bed because he thought that Newton was so important that this should be the central place in the house. Newton is the one who did it all. So anyway, an interesting assessment of Newton, but nevertheless, this is good. And I think this can be seen today too. We can, one can stretch and one could make the argument that relativistic effects are merely correction factors on kinematics equations. For example, we would use that same business that we had last week with kinetic energy, Ke equals 1/2 mv squared. And all we have to do is plug in some correction factors there for length contraction and so on. And we can still use that as a description for special relativistic effects or local relativistic effects. All right, so I will end there. I did say I'm going to just move into this workshop session very quickly and give you a chance to ask questions, make comments. I wanted to show you three resources, one of which is I've got with me this book. And given the fact that this week we're going to be busily concluding early modern period, moving into the 19th century, so that we can pave the way to the 20th century, I want to show you a link. This work that I have in my hand is none other than Kepler's Somnium. The first work of science fiction. And this is a story about a trip to the moon and what was seen there on the journey and beyond, what kind of spacecraft it would take, what we would see, how the motion of the heavenly bodies would appear. In many ways, this was Kepler's way of showing how a heliocentric universe works, but using it from the standpoint of science fiction. And it's quite remarkable. Now, this book is extremely hard to find. If you find a copy, get it, because I can't even find this book online nor even available in translation. I was just lucky enough to find this locally. And it's a hardbound edition, all the more rare, a hardbound first edition. And this is a book that was translated by Professor Edward Rosen of City University of New York. Jeremy, our TA, whom you know, one of our TAs, is an alumnus of CUNY. And this was Edward Rosen. Kepler had extensive endnotes showing, explaining technically how these items would work. He even advances the need for staged rocketry to be able to escape Earth's forces and so on. And then he also discusses extensively the need for life support, self-containing. In many ways, to my mind, when I read it, it's very much reading a proposal for Apollo project. So Kepler's Somnium, and there is the book for your consideration. So if you're interested, I know at one time, this would even make a marvelous film too. It's never been done. It'd be a marvelous work of science fiction if someone would put it on the big screen. For those of you interested in history of technology and still honing final projects, that's fine. That's the nature of it. This is an analysis of Leonardo's machines from an engineering perspective. It's just entitled Leonardo da Vinci's Machines, a slim volume, as you can see, by, it's Carlo Pedretti is the, it writes the introduction to the background, and Marco Cianchi does writes the bulk of the text, but you can see that you have much of what you read about in Copra and so on. And a lot of this too is some of these are available online, but some of these are archival materials that you really can't find anywhere else. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Also, now since I mentioned machines, and you see behind me the sextants and the all of the various quadrants and so on that Tycho had, you will notice that also that might be of interest to you. You might be interested in the history of instruments. And I have a lovely volume by Maurice Dalmas entitled Scientific Instruments of the 17th and 18th Century. It's probably not going to show up too well outside the background, but you can see that. And this is a lovely volume, and in class I generally circulate this to give folks ideas, but this will bring back memories of your armillary lab, all of these various segments and parts. So that's another final project possibility. I think maybe a couple of teams this semester are planning to build an instrument, or at least interact with one in a significant way. So I encourage you to do that if you're interested. And again, this is a marvelous resource for that. I will make an announcement, and I may do some screen sharing here to show you on Canvas. If I can find that again. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share the screen again, and let's take a look here. Okay. All right, here is a list of people in the course, and then we have that student groups tab. And I suppose I could make an announcement. This is fine if you have appeared over here, but I'm going to migrate you over to this tab here, Final Project. I'm the one who has to make that. Unfortunately, I discovered that if it's self-selecting, you can't attach a grade to it. And I don't know why Canvas won't let me override that function. You'd think they would let us override that function. I can appreciate being the default setting, but so you can see our lab teams, and then I moved, and then generally the idea of that you can see some of the topics that have been chosen so far. A group on religion and science, something that we're hoping to restart that course. That's my favorite course to teach, science and religion. We do emphasize early modern period very much like this, but we're able to go into many of the details of the ecclesiastical intrigue and so on at a time very fascinating. And then we move in, of course, into the 19th century with the controversy with Darwin. Of course, that's uppermost on everyone's minds, but then there's also the controversies, in the physical science as well that we don't often think about as deeply. Then the 20th century, technology, the challenges that have arisen there, the genome project. So anyway, the list, the scope is wide. So I'm glad to see someone who has chosen that, and you can see various other, topics in the history of mathematics and so on. But if you find yourself on this page here, don't go ahead and make yourself a new group. That will just induce confusion. The grades for the final project go to the ones that say final project. And then, of course, you have the lab teams there too. So, okay. And we've got a couple of folk unassigned, but I think that has to do with what's going on over here. So if you have not yet chosen a final project, let me know. Also, if you see something here that is of interest to you and you want to join forces with someone, please feel free to contact those persons. These persons you see here in blue, I've set up as group leaders, so you can always contact them. And I had forgotten, and now I just now realized, Jonathan, you were the one with Laplace's demon. So this is good. I'm looking forward to that with great anticipation. So anyway, good. So, so see Jonathan, he's right there on the screen. If you're interested in Laplace's demon, now is your chance to learn about that. So preview of coming attractions. We've got a Leonardo group, currently full. I prefer that not to go over 3. So that's really enough said about that. I do want to ask one question about lab teams, check in with you. There are teams in which there are no persons because they've migrated out into others. But then there are some teams of only one person. If you want to be moved, let me know. These lab teams are designed to have up to 4 students. So I'm happy to move you wherever you want to go. It would be best to obtain the permission of the leader who is here in blue. So if you're thinking about moving and want to go to a certain lab group, contact that person and ask permission, and then I can move you. These 2 here again are empty. And then this one here, I may very well delete these here from the page. So those are options. All right, that's enough from me for now. Since you've begun your research and you're working on, some of you on, our the second essay, and I know some are still working on that, which is fine, and happy to help there. Also, again, that project, I will go, I apologize, I'm going to share the screen one more time here. And let me go over here in assignments. You will notice, maybe, okay, here we go. This is that archives project. Now this is not due for another week or so. But this is the one. What I meant to say is this assessment and rubric up here, this section roughly up here, is what we use when we're doing it in person. And these are things to look for in the book. Now, given the fact that you're not going to be able to handle these books physically, that presents a problem. All I'm really looking for is a book report. And if you can pick up some of this along the way of the particular book you found, wonderful. If not, just write a report about here. And here's where I have the changes down here. Now, I have some links to an amateur-produced history of the book and bookbinding. I really was looking for the video from the University of Virginia Rare Book School. If any of you is interested in books and history of books libraries, University of Virginia has a wonderful annual Rare Book School. It's offered in the summer. It is credit bearing. So if you want to go to the University of Virginia and get the credit and then have that to take with you in whatever program you were studying in, that's perfect. That would be wonderful to do. But what I'm saying is just go and look for a book that may connect with your project or may not, just a favorite book. And here's some links where you can find older books, including the Mysterious Voynich manuscript right there. And I would say write a book report. Don't go over 3 pages. Really, 1 page is plenty. This is really more of a research report on here's what I found. The main thing, all I'm really asking you to do is just to get involved in the hands-on research, or as close as you can get to it. Jeremy and I have also mentioned to you several times this early English books online, and I showed you how everything was available in there. University of Oklahoma is rich in early modern holdings. So they had a grant to digitize a lot of their collection, and they're probably as more digitized than probably they're right there second to Cambridge really in their digitizing of their holdings. Linda Hall Library in Kansas City is another really good resource. We also have quite a bit digitized here with the Harry Ransom Center, but that has not been a priority project as much as it has been in other places such as the Huntington or the Dibner. But what I would recommend that you do is if you are interested in the future and this is something that appeals to you, I do know the Harry Ransom Center does offer research fellowships, and it might be that you could get a research fellowship, and the focus of which is to digitize a lot of their collections in the history. And they have a collection in the history of science called the Herbert Evans collection in the history of science. That's where most of the books live that I use, most of the early modern materials. So anyway, I'll leave that up to you. Contact me if you have any questions. Don't make it a major stress-inducing project. This is just meant to go and have fun with old books. And also, because this deal in here for in person, I would explain to you catchwords, running titles, chain lines. We would look at some examples of watermarks. We might even get to see a bookworm. Yes, a bookworm. So, that's something for you to think about and enjoy. So there is that. It's a quick, easy assignment. And I'm happy to help as always. So, and I need to revise that rubric because I've got it set for a 100-point scale. And I need to scale that down so it'll be useful for a 5-point scale. Anyway, I'll take care of that. But anyway, these are the criteria. I mean, this is really echoes what you see down here. In terms of written reflection rationale. As far as I'm concerned, that I'm not that really concerned about that. I mean, quite frankly, you do the report, would be full marks for that section there. Research, yeah, I mean, that's the fun part. Full marks, do the project, look up a book, describe it, you're done. So yeah, so this is good. Digitized, that's really not applicable. I'm just going to give everybody full marks there. And if you use images, this is a way to evaluate the use of those images. You're welcome to use images of your book in sets with title page, whatever. So this is very good. And you might, again, want to, and I haven't looked at the Copernicus website in a long, long time, but they may have some of his books digitized as well that you could do. So anyway, all right, so enough from me. Questions, comments, anyone? There's no such thing as a silly question. The only questions that are silly are unasked ones, because if you're thinking it, probably 1,000 others are thinking it with you. And so this is your forum for you. I'll be happy to work with you if you have questions about resources or anything like that.
I have a question about the Wikipedia essay that's due today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I was looking at the rubric and it said things like having like a thesis and then like the logic and argumentation. And I was kind of confused because it seemed like we were just writing like a biographical kind of research paper. So I was confused.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that is a really good question. Thanks for asking that, Derek. Yes, a thesis in this context means a thesis statement that you have that you've built a cohesive argument, I suppose would be the best way to state that, or let me simplify it farther, that it's focused.
Okay.
That your article is focused. That's all you need to worry about on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Really good question. Yeah, all of those little, because that grading rubric there that you see for this project is really designed for a much longer project. And in longer projects, thesis statements are really crucial, but they're crucial in encyclopedia articles as well. So yeah, I won't bore you with my sharing of writing encyclopedia articles, but it gets to be involved and annoying after a while. because then the editor writes back and says, what about this source here? And it may have been something you submitted a year ago, and who knows where, how to find it. It's a mad scramble. So anyway, good point.
And then I had I had another question about the Wikipedia thing. It said that like we would get extra credit for the if we like used footnotes with Chicago citation.
Yes.
And does that count towards like the 5 that we get for the total course? Is that just added on to the assignment grade?
Oh, that's a good question. I had originally envisioned adding that to the assignment, but I can revisit that. And by the way, Derek, since you asked that question talking about extra credit for the course, I know you're going to be annoyed with my sharing back and forth all the time. Let's go over here to the assignments page again. I wanted to point out something here, and I meant to send out an announcement over the weekend about this. See this extra credit section down here? Normally, under normal circumstances, we have the star party going, with the astronomy. Oh, I need to share that. Normally, we have the star parties and all that over in the astronomy department, and I encourage folks to go and enjoy the telescope. We don't have really that many extra, and we don't have any field trips available to us this semester. Another component of this course, because really experiencing this course as you are now is not even close to the way it is normally taught. Where we go places, we have these fun experiences of visiting the museums and processing that and critically analyzing that. But what I do encourage you to do is, if you attend a lecture I think there's some coming up this Thursday, I can send out links, you Zoom on something or something that you think that would be worthy of extra credit. Well, first of all, if you know about it in time, share it with the rest of us, because others might be interested in going to that event, whatever it is you're proposing. Second is that then that way we can give you extra credit for that, because I want folks to be involved with campus resources and community resources. So good. But yeah, good question. I may, if it comes to the end of the course and we don't have as many extra credit participation as there normally is, I might consider pushing that credit on out on top of your course grade, and then that way it would give you some more academic advantage that way. Excellent. All right. Any other questions or comments? About
The field were a lot of fun when I took the course last summer. So
yeah.
If y'all don't get to go right now, definitely make time to check those places out, like the star parties and
Absolutely.
the history of. That's really neat.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you, Crystal. That's and I like to have a testimonial from those who've lived through the experience. Yes, that's absolutely right. All those resources are available. And then Ronald, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like a couple of members of our group, we're in the Leonardo group with Lainey and Sarah Evans, and so for the biographical essay, is it all right if like all 3 of us type it about Leonardo, or
yes,
it can only be one of us? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no, and I don't mind if you work together on something.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me a bit. And
because it was going to contribute to the final project, but we didn't know if like only one of us could type out the biography or like.
Oh, absolutely. You each of you may, and you might each have a different aspect. Yeah. And then by the time you get to the end, then you can collate all of that into one final project.
I also have another question about the format. So like on my first essay for the wiki style like conceptual essay, I used Chicago format, but I also didn't really have a conclusion because like looking at Wikipedia articles, they don't tend to have conclusions. They just have like sections of different boxes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like I need a conclusion because I didn't really include a conclusion per se in my essay, and it was only like 750 to like 1,000 words, so I didn't want to like go over.
Yeah,
like the substance.
Yeah, and of course, you don't have to worry about that because I don't sit there counting words. But no, that's a really good point you raise about conclusion. You're exactly right. Encyclopedia articles typically don't have, you just, here are the facts. Here's what this person did, end of story. And you really don't go back and summarize. Yes, I'll take that into consideration. And again, I think that would go back to Derek's point about, he was talking about a thesis statement. A conclusion is often very much related to a thesis statement. So if you've got it cohesive and focused, to my mind, that counts as a really good conclusion. And you don't have to have a formal conclusion in there. And even if you wrote it, in some cases, the editor would just chop it off. Now, I will have to tell you the article, I'll just tell you this little vignette, the article that I wrote on the last deal, it took 5 years to get the book published. That was a mess. But when it finally went up, I fudged my article, and it was longer than it was supposed to be by about half a page. But they went ahead and printed it. They didn't chop any of it. Which I was surprised that I squeaked by on that one. But typically, and I didn't have a conclusion either. It just ended, just an abrupt, it was that article on Kurt Gödel. And I just ended with the incompleteness theory, end of story, goodbye. So.
Theorem of incompleteness theorem is really interesting because I took symbolic logic
in
the philosophy department.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, either a system is complete and inconsistent, or else it's incomplete and consistent. You can't have it. It
was interesting because we used register machines
yes.
as like ways of like figuring out different types of systems and moving like hypothetical stones on paper. It was really interesting.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. And all of that, and all of that really connects so deeply, with Gödel's work because, Einstein coming to the Institute and saying, look, I get to work with Gödel rather than the other way around. He was very much grateful for the opportunity to work with Gödel. And then we have, then a few years before that, you'd had Turing who had come through the Institute. And of course, again, with all of the, with the machine logic that we use today, well, a lot of folks credit Johnny von Neumann, but I mean, really a lot of that credit should lie at Turing's door.
There's also like in like Turing also expanded through like the Church-Turing thesis.
Yes.
Which process the inputs and outputs of the black box system versus those who measure it.
Exactly. Oh my, yes. Oh yeah, that's metaphysically rich. Oh my goodness. Yes, and then when you start talking about machine learning on top of that and putting that in context of that, just oh my goodness. So yes, I like that very much. Great questions all. Oh my goodness. Any other questions, comments, animadversions, complaints? I do have complaint forms if anyone wants them. I'll be happy to supply them. I am thinking of going ahead and I'll end our session here. I'm going to, and we'll see if you're interested in having a workshop session I can schedule one. I don't know when that would be, but likely I could work one in a little bit later this week. So if you want to meet again, or, you know, just in a workshop without the formal component, really this conceptual component, I like to put these details in here because then this gives folks a chance to be able to weave together the discussions we've had up to this point. So this is good. So if there are no other questions or comments, I guess I will end our session today here. Goodbye, everyone. And again, Crystal, it was good to have you with us here again today. I'm glad you were able to stay with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yes. Oh, well, our pleasure, and congratulations and much success. And let me know again if, you know, as we work on that Loma Linda, you know, MSTP project thing. So I'll be happy to contribute what I can, and I can give a lot of advice that would be worth about what it costs, but but I'm always happy to give it.
Very crucial, and any help would be really great. So thank you.
Well, you got it. You got it.